G'day and welcome to Oly35mm, user-based quasi-empirical cheap and cheerful videos on Olympus Zuiko branded 35mm lenses, and for this particular video the ones for the OM system. Now today I'd like to talk to you about wide angle lenses. In fact there's one actually here, the 24mm f2.8 that Olympus consider to be a super wide. So there was fisheye, which was the 16mm, 8mm and 16mm lenses. There was super wide, which ran from 18 to 24mm. Then there were wide lenses, which ran from 28 to 35mm. Look, it doesn't really matter. Put them into whatever category you like, but that's just what Olympus actually did. However, I thought I would lump them in all together because this is the only super wide that I have out of the system, as much as I would like to have possession of a 35mm, sorry, my apologies, a 21mm f3.5 or f2. They're out of my price range at the moment. Okay, so I have a 5 of the lenses out of the series. You can actually get a 24mm f2. You can also get a 24mm f3.5 shift as well, so used for architectural type photography. You can also get a 35mm shift as well, which I think was an f2.8 if I remember rightly. Yes, 35mm f2.8 shift as well for architectural type photography. I don't have those in my collection either, as much as I would like one of them, of course. Alright, so f2 models of the 35mm, which is actually sitting at the back and I'll get to in a moment, of the 28mm, and also of the 24mm, and like I said, the super wide 21mm as well. So there's a really fast wide glass out there. Now if you wanted to, you could use all of these as standard lenses, say on a micro four thirds sensor, which is 2x crop factor. If you wanted to, I don't know why you would. There's some really nice either proprietary branded or generic brands out there of nifty 50s or the those sorts of equivalents if you so wanted to, and I wouldn't tend to use these at all on a micro four thirds or on an APS-C sensor, but entirely up to you. From there they'll work quite well, and I have had a little bit of a play with them, so that's actually fine if you so desire. But on a full frame sensor, this is where I believe these lenses really come into their own. The 24mm f2.8 is a wonderful little wide lens, which I like using a lot. In fact, it's quite funny because when I first bought it, I didn't think much of it, but the more I used it, the more I got to like it. The 28mm, you actually have 3 choices in the OM system. You have an sorry, that's my apologies, that's actually a 35mm, I'll get it right in a moment, a 28mm f3.5, which is the budget one of the range, and I've actually done a video on this particular lens as well on the 3 different censored cameras that I have, the micro four thirds APS-C and also full frame. So have a look on the YouTube channel for the 28mm f3.5. That's a nice little lens. The f2.8 is also a nice little lens, probably my pick of the 2, although this particular one that I have, and I'm not too sure if you can see it or not, this one actually has fungus, so this will be leaving my collection. But I have used it, and the fungus actually doesn't seem to worry the image quality too much. Both quite small, and all of the lenses that I'm talking about today have a 49mm filter ring, except for the 35mm f2, but most of them actually have a 49mm filter ring, which is quite good. And of course there is also the 28mm f2, so I haven't tried it, so I can't tell you what it's like. In the 35s there is the 35mm f2.8 and the 35mm f2. and also, of course, that shift 35mm that I was talking about before. That's an f2.8 as well. The 35mm f2 tends to get a bit of a bad rap. It's probably the Olympus lens or Zuiko lens with the baddest rap or the baddest PR. And there's a certain reason behind that. At wide apertures, it's not as good as some of the other f2s, f2.8s out there. However, I really like it. I think it's a great lens, and if you're prepared to spend the extra money on it, then I think you'll be very, very happy with it. From 5.6 onwards, it's really just wonderful. A great lens. I have no issue with it, corner or centers on a full frame sensor at all. The truth of it is, though, it's probably not a real lot better than the f2.8, which is quite a lot cheaper. So this is a better value lens, the f2.8, I think, rather than the f2. So, but it's a matter of personal taste, I suppose. I like this one a lot, and it's not a real lot bigger or a real lot heavier than the f2.8. So these particular lenses, the wides and the one super wide that we have, the 24mm, I think work best on the full frame sensor and also on film, work beautifully on film, of course. However, if you wanted to use them on an APS-C or on a Micro Four Thirds, there's certainly not going to be anything wrong with them. I just don't see the value in them compared to some of the wonderful proprietary and generic brand lenses that are actually made for the digital sensors these days. So, that's your lot for today. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.